Now to this, President Trump has made no secret about his intentions to root out the Mexican drug cartels, which have smuggled huge amounts of deadly fentanyl across our southern border for more than 10 years now. The president has already classified several cartels as terrorist organizations, and now he's reportedly giving our military the green light to engage those cartels at the border. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum responded to these reports, stressing that no U.S. military presence will be tolerated in her country. Quote, "We cooperate, we collaborate, but there is not going to be an invasion. The United States is not going to come to Mexico with the military." Now, looking back at the previous administration, under Biden, over 260,000 Americans died of fentanyl poisoning. That comes out to 1,300 per week. And the cartels only profited from it. In 2022 alone, they made a staggering $13 billion from smuggling both drugs and humans into the United States. Professor, talk to us about the legality and what you see here unfolding.
Well, I welcome this move. I think that the power of these drug cartels is sometimes, as in Mexico and in Venezuela, may be greater than the government itself. And so when these kinds of threats arise to our security, I think the military can be triggered. Look, I was in Washington in the Justice Department at 9/11, handling something that everyone used to think was crime, which was terrorism. And we had to figure out, how do we convert that to a war footing? So what we want to do is be careful that we don't have the military, for example, chasing drug dealers on street corners in the United States and our inner cities. What we need to do is make sure the military is targeting our foreign enemies. And that might be drug cartels that are synergistic with the government of Venezuela. That might be drug cartels in Mexico that government officials there are letting operate freely. Have the military focus on what they can do best, and then have our police here at home focus on what they can do best. But I think as long as they respect that line, as we did after 9/11, I think it's perfectly legal and well within the president's constitutional authority to protect the nation's security from foreign threats.
And Lisa, broadening out for a moment now, we know the cartels have pivoted under this current administration because of the enforcement of law and order and the respect for our sovereign borders. So there's a lot of play now in Canada, who don't have the same cartel identification structures that we do here in the United States. And certainly now fentanyl is pouring throughout Canada. Mexico and the cartels are now seeking to sort of eke out China and create their own fentanyl products. So this is only a latent, my argument is, depression in terms of the statistics, because they are not going anywhere. You take $1 from those cartels and they will claw to get it back. So do you see this as that logical step, and will this be effective?
Yes, I do. And the objective is protecting the homeland, as we discussed. I mean, President Trump's got a big job to do. I mean, we had 4 years of completely open borders under Biden. He allowed terrorists, gang members, these cartels into America, and now President Trump is tasked with preventing more of that, and then also expelling and deporting all of these terrible people that Biden just, let waltz into the country. Also say President Trump is so smart because he's a problem solver. Even looking at the unprecedented use of designating these terrorists or these cartels as terrorist organizations, we previously looked at them as organized crime syndicates. So even that is just an interesting and, a thoughtful approach from the president of problem solving. It also expands government power to freezing assets, prosecuting perceived associates, being able to employ military and intelligence tools. So I think this is very smart from the president, and just another example of sort of this outsider approach, the CEO approach of problem solving.
Carly, this is sending such a strong message, too, again, of this reinforcement of our sovereignty and our unwillingness to let any American die of poisoning. Talk to us about the synergy that the professor mentioned, though, because without the Mexican president buy-in, that was supposed to be a collaboration that could sort of help effectively break apart the cartels. Do we need her on board?
Okay, well, first of all, the president obviously does nothing by half, and it's clear that if he cares about an issue, he's going to hit it 17 different ways in an additional way just for safety. So I think that what the president is doing here is that making sure that at the very least, this is an option. So he's saying it can happen. The Mexican president is saying, no, it can't. At least that's what she's saying publicly. But if something needs to happen behind the scenes, at least the president has already started the process of allowing it to. When it comes to fentanyl, another thing that President Trump just did is sign the Halt the Fentanyl Act, which at a minimum gives 10-year prison sentences for fentanyl traffickers and also makes it easier to prosecute these people, because a lot of families who have had children who've died of fentanyl poisonings, they say that they never get justice because it's very difficult to prosecute them. So the president is tackling the distributors and also the source.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was going to say, because China, I don't think you can tackle this without getting to the precursors of those materials that become fentanyl and other drugs, without going after China, because that's where they are first put together and then distributed from that point. And what they were trying to do, and I think that our tariffs and all of the trade deals that the president has been making, particularly with Vietnam, have been very good, because what China was hoping to do was to force Vietnam to let them use their southern ports so that they could access our shores more easily. So I think he's kind of hit this in all those 17 ways plus one right. for good measure, as you put it. And so we'll have to see. Sheinbaum would be smart, though, to want to participate in something like this, because it's a blight on her country if our forces keep them there and then her people suffer.
Yeah, and with the cartels committed to using this period to establish independence from China, they want it all for themselves. They want to be able to create this from scratch on their own territory. We know that corruption is rife throughout the government there, too. So they're battling a lot of problems, but my money's on President Trump. Hey, everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.